Welcome to this tutorial from my So You Want to Make a Bra Series 1. Underwires. Well, goodness me, where to start. There's no doubt about it, the comfort and successful fit of our underwire bra starts with the underwire itself. But I suspect that because it's the last thing that we add to our finished bra, it's the last thing we even think about when we start out bra making. I mean, why would we? The world of bra making is bewildering enough without us having to think about throwing the wire size into the mix. In the world of ready-to-wear, there are industry standards as to what size wire goes into what size bra. The length of the wires tends to be the same as well, and if a wire is too long for a particular style of bra, well, then it simply gets cut. Seldom is the cut end of the wire finished properly. And voila, your bra now has a tiny little knife inside which before long cuts through the fabric and your wire makes a bid for freedom. Does that sound familiar? Well, I'm sure we've all experienced underwires that dig in and rub, especially here in the underarm section, and when we take our bra off we find there's a really red and sore patch. It's such a common story that it becomes one of those things that we end up growing up just accepting as part and parcel of wearing a bra. I think that's probably why it's one of the main reasons why most of us try to make our own bra. So we buy a bra pattern and there's a little chart in the instructions with what size wire goes with what size bra. And we measure ourselves and we make the bra and we use the wire suggested on the pattern. And it's uncomfortable and the wire digs in and the cups are wrinkled and it doesn't make sense because we've done everything that the pattern instructions told us to do. And so we think that it must be something to do with us and we get disheartened because this is where we came in. It happens because bra designers also have to start with an industry standard wire size. Realistically, it's just not possible to produce a bra that has different band sizes, it has different cup volumes and caters for different wire sizes. And in any case, even if such a pattern were available, we still wouldn't know what wires to start with. So we end up stuck in this never-ending cycle of making a bra, sticking in the wire that we're told to stick in, and then we try to make it fit by making adjustments here, there and everywhere. And in the end, when it comes down to it, it's probably the wire that's causing the problem. So this is where this tutorial comes in, to try and break this cycle. Knowing your wire size, and that's your wire size, not the wire size that fits the pattern, is absolutely vital in bra making. It's like knowing your mother's maiden name when you're trying to set up an internet account. Without that information, you will never get a bra that's comfortable and gives support and is everything that you want it to be. And that is a fact. When students come to my beginners class, I fit them for their wire size. But then I've got a great big box of every single style of wire that I carry in every available size. I also have the experience of knowing how to fit a wire. It's kind of like a superpower. So, well, good for you, I hear you say. Good for them. But how are the rest of us supposed to know how to find our size? Let me show you. Right, so the first thing we need to do when we're trying to find our own wire size is to work with some sort of a chart. I sell Bra Maker Supply wires. In fact, everything I sell is from Bra Maker Supply, which is Beverly Johnson's company in Canada. And the wire charts are on the product, in the product description on my website of the different types of underwire that we sell. Now, I suggest that you download the long underwires chart. It's a kind of middle for diddle one, if you like. It's not too long, not too short, a bit like Goldilocks type of arrangement. And you have to start somewhere, so I suggest the long wires is the chart that you start with. print it out, preferably on some thickish paper or thin card, nothing too flimsy if you can help it. If you've got an old bra that you can cannibalise and take the wires out of, that you think is quite comfortable, you can start off with that by laying the wire that you think onto the chart and see which is the closest to the wire that you've got. But if you don't have a spare wire, then you're going to have to do it by eye, which is really the way most of us do it in any case. So for that, you will need to stand in front of a mirror, naked at least to the waist, and raise one arm above your head. What you need to do is to expose the natural crease under your breast where your breast tissue meets your rib cage. If necessary, and certainly in my case, it is, if necessary, you can use your other hand to lift your breast up out of the way so that you can see this crease. This is the inframammary fold or underbreast crease, whatever you might see it termed as. And this is where the wire should sit on your body, exactly along this crease. Resting, and this is so important, it should be resting on the ribs. The wire should never come into contact with any part of the breast tissue. The whole of the breast tissue should be encompassed in the wire. Okay, so look at yourself, commit it to memory. Failing that, you can draw it in with an eyeliner brush, maybe, and some eyeshadow. Just kind of gently go along it, or you can use some kind of erasable marker. You can see this is sort of what I've done here. I really wouldn't suggest that you use a Sharpie, as I have done here. This is definitely one of those don't do this at home children moments. But you want to have this line either marked or clearly in your memory, that you know the shape, roughly the shape and size of that. Now, I know lots of people suggest or successfully use, do a root trace. That's known as it's known. It's a way of getting this shape onto a bendable ruler. I have never tried it, so that's my disclaimer. I suppose they say you shouldn't knock it unless you've tried it, but I've never tried it, primarily because it strikes me as quite a difficult thing to do, to be sort of holding your breast with one hand and then trying to flex this ruler around with the other hand. I've never understood how it can be particularly accurate, and certainly it doesn't strike me as being very easy. However, I know that lots of people have done that quite happily. If that's what you'd like to do, then that's fine. But eventually you're going to have to make it, whatever you do, make it match this crease in the end. So once you've kind of eyeballed this shape, or you've got your old wire, you will need to see which size, and you can see this, they go from a 30 all the way up to a 60 wire. Don't ask me what that means. I have no idea what the numbers relate to, and it really doesn't matter, in my opinion. But on the chart, just out of interest, on the chart you will see that there are measurements on here, which is the overall length from tip to tip of this wire. So this wire, for example, is 190 millimeters from tip to tip. It's, to my mind, it's not particularly useful information, certainly not in everyday life. It might be useful if you are drafting or whatever, but anyway, if you're going to find that information useful, it's on there. Also, when you print this out, do print it in colour. You can see that the wires have different colour tips, and this will help you if you, for example, have random wires hanging around, you're not quite sure what they are. Certainly if you've bought them from me, these colours will apply, so at least you can have an idea of that this is a wire size that ends in an 8. You can see, you can at least if I move the paper, that a 48 also has a pink tip, a 38 has a pink tip, a 58 has a pink tip, and so on. Then that helps you to identify. And also, sorry, I should have said at the beginning, when you print this out, have your printer set to scale 100%. Don't have it fit to size or anything like that. I'm sure if you've downloaded PDF patterns and stuff before, you'll know this, but just in case. And then when you've printed it, measure this line. It should measure 5 inches to make sure that it's accurate. Right, so we think we know what size we're going to start with. It's a question of think of a number and then take away the number you first thought of. Not quite, but nearly. I think when I look at this, I don't know, maybe that's a 42. Making it sound random, but obviously I know what size it is. But anyway, I look at that and think, maybe it's a 42. So I've cut out, first of all, a 40. It's better to start off with a size that's slightly too small, because if you find that this doesn't fit, you can easily cut out the next one. If, however, I'd cut this out first and it's too big, I either have to start again, printing it all again, or try and piece this back in, and ain't nobody got time for that. So I'm thinking, let's try it at 40. So bring this over here and offer up a 40 to fit here. Now when I do that, can you see there's a space underneath the fold there? There's a black line and then the wire sits below that. If you did this to yourself, or if you saw somebody else, a picture of somebody else's, what would you think? Is this wire too big or too small? Lots of people imagine that the wire is too big because there's a space under the crease and it's as if it's too big and it's hanging down. But in actual fact, this size wire is too small for this inframemory crease. The reason why the wire is hanging down at the bottom is because when you try and push it up, it's too narrow across the breast. It won't go up because there's not enough width. Does that make sense? I hope so. So this size is too small, even though there's a gap underneath. All right. So I'll take that away, ta-da, and bring in a 42. Let's see if my wonderful technological sticky tape does the trick here. Probably not. Let me just see. Pop that there. Nope. Pop that there. Hopefully you can see that that wire sits pretty much in the crease as close as you're likely to get. Now, given that this is paper on a Perspex display model, it's not perfect, but you can see that it's as near as damn it. Okay, so that would be where I would start for this size. Let me just bring in the actual wire. Maybe you can tell better. So this, you can see this is a black tip on here, and this wire has a black tip. The coloured tip sits in the centre. So, sorry, I'm giggling. When I first got, wires come in pairs. So when you buy wires, you get two wires. And when I first opened the packet, I thought, well, how are you supposed to know which is the left hand and which is the right hand wire? So that lasted a split second before I thought, oh, don't be ridiculous. It's interchangeable. But anyway, that's just me. So let's pop this up here. And this fits in really nicely, you can see. I'm sure if you had a wire that fitted you like that, you'd be quite happy. Let me just show you in maybe, well, not necessarily realistic, but let's bring this one in. This is my display model that I made to my own measurements. I like to call her Norma. Anyone that's my sort of age who remembers the two Ronnies might recall a sketch that they did. One of the characters that was in it was called Norma Stitz. So she's called Norma. And I'm going to try and see with my little chart what size wire. So I'm looking at that and thinking, well, let's try 44. And even in the paper you can see, lo and behold, that that's pretty much the right size. It's almost as if I knew before I started. So that's the wire size for that. This is a 42 wire. No, it isn't. It's a 44 wire. And it's going to sit there like that. Now, these wires are marked up because these are my drafting wires. And they've got markings on there to help position the wires when drafting. You obviously don't need to know that. But what is quite interesting is this point here, when it's being worn, should sit directly underneath the nipple like that. Obviously you wouldn't know that when it's inside the bra. But when you kind of offer it up to yourself, you can see this bottom point is the very, very bottom of the curve. And that should be sitting there. you don't want the wire to be sitting like that or like that, because that will push the breast in a different direction. And we'll talk about this kind of thing later on when we do the fitting series, but that's what we're looking for it to be like. When a bra is worn, the tension in the back band springs this wire out like that, and that should bring it in line with the breast tissue the way it sits underneath here. Okay, so the important thing, whatever manufacturer you use, whatever brand of wire, whatever design or whatever, that you establish what your wire size is, what your number is, and that is your wire size. If you keep a spare set of the wires, or just one, but one wire is not much good. If you keep a spare set of the wires that you think is that you're happy with is your size somewhere, if you want to make up a bra pattern that uses wires that are not bra makers supply wires, lots of manufacturers, bra designers such as Emerald Erin, I think, and Orange Lingerie, they have their own wires. So if you want to make one of their patterns, they are designed for their own wires, and so it's probably a good idea to use them. But if you've got your own wire you've established is your size, you can offer that up to somebody else's wire charts, and you can see how they compare. Okay, so I think that's about it for how to fit your wire. I do hope this has helped you to understand how a wire is supposed to fit, and to be able to recognise when a wire is too big and when it's too small. Actually, I'll just show you. I showed you when a wire is too small, how it looks, but this is when a wire is too big. This is just one size up from the correct size for this body. But you can see, yes, it hangs down at the bottom, but also it hangs out at the sides. So this is definitely too big. It's like everything, it's kind of easy to tell when something's too big, not so easy to establish when something's too small. But hopefully that's pointed you in the right direction and demystified this whole thing a little bit and given you a way of finding out what size wire is right, and how actually, more importantly, to know what size wire is right. My suggestion is that you send off for 3 sizes of wire, one the size that you think it is, one bigger, one smaller. Then you've got 3 wires to try, 3 sizes to try. It saves you keep going backwards and forwards ordering wires from me or whoever it is you're getting them from. And then once you've established it, then you've got the wires that you don't need. Me, certainly, I'm happy for you to send them back, and I'll refund you for the wires. No need to have a drawer full of wires that aren't any good for you. Any questions, please drop them in the comments below, or else email me through the website, and I'll see if I can help you. Let me know whether this is any good, and if you've enjoyed it, by giving me a like, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much.